Board of Selectmen's meeting to order for June 8th, 2015. Would all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the meeting of the Board of Selectmen held on May 18, 2015.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for May 18th.
Second.
Motions were made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes.
No, it's standard.
All right, next item on the agenda is a part of our job that we absolutely love to do, recognize people in our community. I'd like to call up Linda Canoyer to please join us.
This isn't on.
It's on.
It was important that I bring Denise.
Absolutely.
She's the reason why I do it for her and others.
First of all, thank you so much for coming out. Members of the board could not attend your recent retirement party, so we have put together a very nice proclamation for you, and I'd like to read that. Known all men by these present, that the Board of Selectmen hereby officially recognizes Linda C. Canoyer for outstanding dedication to providing education and services to those with developmental disabilities. Whereas Linda Canoyer has been a longtime Webster resident, and whereas Linda Canoyer has worked for the Seven Hills Foundation for 37 years and has worked with the Department of Developmental Services and the Center of Hope for over 40 years. And whereas Linda Canoyer organized the Department of Developmental Services legislative breakfast for the last 25 years, which informs and educates the Central Mass delegation as to issues regarding developmental disabilities, and whereas Linda Canoyer has been honored twice as Woman of the Year by the Webster Patriot newspaper and has been awarded the Unsung Heroine Award by the Arc of Massachusetts for her years of service and leadership and advocacy. And whereas Linda Canoyer has donated countless hours and has been a leader in this community, where her devotion in providing services to those who have developmental disabilities, while also spending quality time with her two children, Denise, who is here, and Daniel, who is here. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen wish to join the citizenry of Webster on this 8th day of June 2015 in recognizing our beloved Linda C. Canoyer.
as was my retirement party the other night, that I knew nothing about. But, you know, you don't do things looking for recognition. You do things because you believe in them. And I believe that Denise and others should have the same rights and responsibilities as everyone in this room. And I know you didn't all come out for me, but it's nice to have so many people here.
You're welcome, thank you. Is Chief Hickey in the room?
Yes.
Oh. Are we all set? Okay. He's not here, so. All right, hang on 1 second. We're gonna take a 2-minute recess. Hang on. I'd like to ask if in the room, if we have a Brent Hayjack here. Okay. We'll just put her on the next call.
Okay. All right.
Okay, that's all right. Next item on the agenda is the poll hearing for National Grid Cudworth Road. Good evening, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
If you would just explain.
Do you want me to read
Yeah.
the whole petition?
Well, no,
or
just
a brief overview?
yeah,
Okay.
that'd be perfect.
The poll petition here would be to install a new pole 14-50 in the public way of Cudworth Road in order to serve a new solar generation project at the old Webster landfill, present site of the DPW yard. We need, the poles go up the east side of Cudworth Road, so we need a pole to cross over in the public way before we install 3 other poles, but that would be on town of Webster property, up, following the driveway to, the Webster Department of Public Works.
Are there any questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the poll hearing being moved for Cudworth Road. Any other discussion? Vote for the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolden?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Next item is the poll hearing for National Grid for Park Avenue. Same synopsis.
The poll petition is in order to construct a new driveway for the Webster Elementary School on Park Ave. We have to relocate poles 12, 13, and 14, and also install a a new pole 13-50. The poles as they are currently are right in the middle of the planned driveway. So in order for that school project to proceed, we need to relocate those poles.
Motion to approve the pole relocation.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Courtney, poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Skrzyk?
Yes.
Selectman Dolben?
Yes.
Chairman Ford?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is the Chester C. Corbin Public Library Board of Trustees appointment. Jean.
Well, we had one of our longtime trustees resign, and we needed to fill the position. We advertised it with your help, and we got 2 people that are very interested. After considerable discussion at a recent trustees meeting, we decided on one of the 2. That being, do you want to know the name now? I've never done this before, so walk me through.
No, that's fine. Sure.
It would be Mr. Kinnicky, Reverend Kinnicky. He's a big-time supporter of our library, and I think it'd be a great addition. Not to say that the other gentleman is not, but I know the other gentleman has work issues that could prevent attendance at meetings, and we need quorums, as you all know.
Right.
So I hope you agree.
Are there any questions from the board?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to appoint Reverend William Kinnicky to the Board of Trustees of the library. Courtney, poll the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Skrzyk?
Yes.
Selectman Dolben?
Yes.
Chairman Ford?
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the TSKK permit fee waiver request. Is there anyone here representing the TSKK?
Point of order. Just a quick moment. To make that vote accurate, you're gonna want both boards to vote. So you should have, if the library trustees are still here, you're gonna both wanna come up, because your vote is gonna have to be counted also.
I'm sorry, sir.
The library trustees' vote has to be counted also, just to cover all the bases, okay? It's a
So-
joint vote of both boards.
And-
Okay.
Right, that is why we requested that the library trustees also post a meeting for this evening at the same time.
Yes, you're voting, if both boards have the vote, it has to be a majority of both boards combined.
Correct.
See?
But that's why he's here.
Reverend Kinnicky.
Make sure to close it.
And this is a quorum of your board?
Yes, it
Okay,
is.
all right.
Now you're gonna take a vote. You
We're
have to
gonna-
take a vote. We did our part.
What can I just do, like all those in favor of Reverend Kinnicky?
Sure.
I guess. Yeah.
All those in favor of Reverend Kinnicky from the Board of Trustees? It's a quorum.
Okay.
You should,
Unanimous.
you should close your meeting now,
Yeah.
too.
I can close my meeting now.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
All
You
in
guys are
favor?
good. Thank you. This is on film, too.
Yeah.
Delete. Thank you. Thank you.
Again, is there anyone here from the TSKK?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, in my acting town administrator's report, under follow-up items, the TSKK Club from last meeting, I have confirmed that the former town administrator waived the $2,500 water service access permit fee for the American Legion Post 184, located at 9 Houghton Street. That project is complete, and R.C. Shaw Sprinkler Company, Inc. has been retained to complete the project for the TSKK Club, and the interior work is ongoing. So that was the question that was brought forth at the last meeting, whether the American Legion's fee was waived, and it was in fact waived.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Do we know of any other clubs or associations that are looking to waive fees at this time?
There is one other establishment that is in this situation, that being the Swingin' Chicken Saloon on Lake Street.
And what's the fee amount?
$2,500.
What
Thank you.
This is the water fee, this is the water tie-in
TSKK
fee.
is nonprofit, right?
The TSKK is nonprofit. In my conversation with Mr. McAuliffe asking his reasoning for waiving the fee for the American Legion, he told me because it was a veterans organization.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver of the fee.
Motion's been made and seconded to waive the fee, the TSKK. Any other discussion? Courtney, call the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Ford?
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the Concerned Citizens Group petition to amend Webster Lake regulations. Is there someone speaking on their behalf?
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. The purpose of our appearance this evening is to ask you as selectmen to send a letter from the Board of Selectmen from the town to the environmental police requesting that the 40-foot boat restriction length and the restriction of commercial operation at night on the lake be approved by the environmental police. As you well know, in 2011, there were two town meetings where these provisions were approved. Subsequent to that, the Board of Selectmen sent a letter dated September 11th, 2012 to the environmental police requesting that they approve these bylaws as part of the CMRs in Massachusetts to make them part of our regulations. This is a normal procedure to get something adopted on a great pond, of which Webster Lake is a great pond. That request stayed dormant at the Department of Energy and Environment and with the environmental police for a couple of years. After many requests to have them act on it, we had no provisions were forthcoming. So what happened was we had a new administration come in the November. The new administration put in a new director, a secretary of environment and energy. And also there's a new group of people that are representing and working with the environmental police. The environmental police came to Webster, reviewed the lake, looked at the lake, assessed our situation and determined that a 40-foot limit was appropriate for public safety on the lake, and we're in the process of promulgating the regulations that we requested. As part of this, they had a hearing in Webster with our safety officers, the harbor master, I believe the police chief, fire chief were there, and they did a study of the Indian Princess and what the Indian Princess's effect would be on the lake. And as a result of that meeting and their prior visit, they determined that for safety reasons, for public safety reasons, that these regulations should be put on the lake, and they were about ready to adopt them when the Attorney General reviewed the regulation and determined that it violated some rules regarding legislative sessions and when articles that have been requested can be adopted. This was done 2 legislative sessions ago, and we're now in the 3rd legislative session. And according to the Attorney General, once you go through the 2nd legislative session, a request has to go back up to the environmental police or whatever body you're dealing with and re-request that provision. We've been told that the selectmen are the appropriate group to make this request on behalf of the town. And the purpose of being here tonight, and the people behind me being here tonight, is to request you to sign that letter. It's the same letter that was sent in 2012 requesting these provisions be put on the lake. We have environmental police that want it on the lake. We have the Department of Energy and the Environment that want it on the lake. We have most of the townspeople that want it on the lake. We have all of our safety officials that want it on the lake, and we all want it on the lake. And we're asking you to please send that letter.
Any questions from the board?
Has the environmental, Chair, has the environmental police sent anything back to you in writing confirming their observations, stating what they observed?
I have nothing in writing, just from what I've been told by our elected officials in Boston who've had conversations with them.
Yeah, has the association had any conversations with the DEP?
Indirectly, we have, yes, through our elected officials.
Okay.
And they're, what I've just related to you is what they've been telling our elected officials, that this is what was about to happen, and because of this technicality in the legislation, it didn't happen, and we can correct it tonight by getting a letter from the selectmen.
To my understanding, there were 2 bills filed through legislation where there were public hearings, and reading through the comments, at that time there was no suggestion by the state that that length was determined reasonable or unreasonable.
There was one piece of legislation that went up. There was a hearing that was held on it, but the legislation was then converted into something that meant nothing as far as the lake was concerned. It was no different than what we have currently, so that legislation was in effect dropped and not brought forward in that legislative session, which was the one before the current legislative session. But there's been no determination as to length, but we do have 19 great ponds in Massachusetts that have limitations that have been put in by the DEP and the environmental police, including all of our legislations, all of our rules regarding liquor on the lake and speeds and driving and things of that sort, which were adopted into CMR about 15 or 20 years ago.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve re-signing the letter to submit to the environmental police.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to re-sign the letter. Any other discussion? Courtney, call the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
No.
Chairman Bork?
No.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the town administrator's That item has been taken up with the board. We're moving on to the next.
What changed since the last time you signed it?
Administrator's report.
Oh. Remember, folks, the selectmen are the harbor masters. All here, anybody want it? Joe Sajowski, 18 Main Point Road, 508-943-0364. All the laws, all the stuff that took place, you folks are very, very kind. Have a great night. Elect people who are harbor masters. Any open container on any boat.
Sir, you're out of order.
Mr. Ben.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Acting Town Administrator Report for June 8th, 2015. I held a department head meeting on Monday, June 1st. I'm sorry? I gave you
It's
a
on the
packet.
front page of the packet,
That's my report.
of this package that she handed out.
Does everyone have it?
One more.
We can't
Will,
continue to have
one more.
conversation
That one.
while we're
All right.
still continuing with the Board of Selectmen's meeting. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
did it pass or not pass?
It didn't because it was a 2-2 vote, so there's no action.
Right, so there's no action.
what happened and what changed, that maybe you might, calm some of the outrage that's going on in this school right now. Oh, yes, you can. Come on, this is democracy. Discussions just between you people. What are these people here for if it's not to be heard? Well, then tell me why. Tell me why you should try to stop something that we're trying to do for public safety. And when you say this, I don't understand anything.
I'll put them on the next agenda and call them
Really
again.
unhappy citizens here tonight.
All right, because it's just really. Yeah, that's what, because it's really nice. Melissa's mom lives like right across the street, so maybe we'll send her over there to go.
Can we ask a process question? What happens now?
What?
Melissa's,
doesn't she live right here?
We will continue with our meeting with the acting town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Acting Town Administrator Report for June 8th, 2015. I held a department head meeting on Monday, June 1st at 10 a.m. I attended a Recreation Committee meeting on Monday, June 1st at 6:30 p.m. I attended a Police, Fire, Building Committee meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd. I attended a Library Building Committee meeting on Tuesday, June 2nd. I presented scholarships to 2 Bartlett High School seniors on behalf of the Worcester County Veterans Association at the request of Rich Hollowa, Veteran Services Agent, on June 3rd, and I attended the Finance Committee meeting on Thursday, June 4th. Under departmental updates and announcements, just a reminder that we have the Prop 2.5 override special election scheduled for Monday, June 15th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Town Hall. And I have attached for the board 2 relevant publications issued by the Office of Campaign and Political Finance for the board's information. They're both interpretive bulletins. One of them is the use of governmental resources for political purposes, and the other is activities of public officials in support of or opposition to ballot questions. I urge the board to read these publications and become familiar with them. The annual town meeting, the adjourned annual town meeting, is scheduled to reconvene on Monday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. at Bartlett High School. Action on the following articles was postponed from May 11th. Article 2 proposes to establish the FY 2016 general fund budget. Article 3 proposes to establish the FY 2016 sewer enterprise fund budget. Article 4 proposes to establish the FY 2016 water enterprise fund budget. Article 11 proposes to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer a sum sufficient to fund technology upgrades to the Wi-Fi infrastructure at Bartlett High School and the Webster Middle School, and is sponsored by Webster Public Schools. Article 15 proposes amendments to zoning bylaw 650-39, motor vehicle parking and loading, and is sponsored by the Dock Lake Committee. Town Collector, the FY15 fourth quarter utility bills are due on Monday, June 15th. The Town Hall is open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Memorial Beach. The town's beach facility will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, June 11th through June 14th. The facility will begin full-time seasonal operations on Thursday, June 18th, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily, weather permitting. Hydrant flushing. The Water Department continues their biannual flushing operations. They've completed 5 of the 6 sectors in town, in addition to the majority of the sequences in Sector 6. The staff is hopeful that they can wrap up their efforts in this regard by the end of this week, and that is ahead of schedule, Mr. Chairman. The Independence Day fireworks display is scheduled for Friday, July 3rd at Memorial Beach, and we do have a rain date of Sunday, July 5th. Follow-up items from our last meeting on May 18th, the nuisance dog hearing. I've attached an email from the animal control officer. I've also attached the non-criminal disposition fine schedule incorporated into the Town of Webster's general bylaws, highlighting those penalties specific to our animal control regulations in response to the board's inquiry regarding the same. Authorization for use of town council. Please see the attached draft town council access policy for your consideration. I emailed the same document to you on Saturday for your review. Mama Dolce's outdoor seating request. I've attached a memorandum from the town engineer planner in response to Selectman Starzik's inquiry regarding ADA compliance. That's for your review. The Janet Malzer Humanities Trust Grant Award. Please see the attached correspondence forwarded to the Board of Trustees per the board's request. TSKK Club, the board has already acted on that request. Town Hall trees. In response to Selectman Starzik's request to plant 3 perpetual trees dedicated to public safety service on the grounds of Town Hall, I offer the following alternative for your consideration. We have 6 perpetual trees which have recently been planted on the grounds of the Town Hall as part of the Sikowski School Apartments Senior Center Church Street beautification project. I propose to dedicate 1 tree to the police service, 1 tree to the fire service, and 1 tree to the emergency medical service. What we would do is erect dedication plaques at the base of each tree and hold a dedication ceremony once the plaques have been crafted and installed. So that's for your consideration. Under informational items, I've attached a copy of the FY 2014 audit. Under new business, we're looking to reschedule Board of Selectmen's meeting to Tuesday, June 23rd. We've also included the summer schedule for the board meetings, and I ask that that can be confirmed this evening so that we can schedule the FY 2014 audit exit interview with our auditor. Also, just another note with regard to the FY14 audit, the management letter that is included with the FY14 audit, I think it's noteworthy to mention that the Town of Webster has no current year recommendations, none in that report. And that is a credit to the finance team that you have here in Webster. And that is Mary Ann McGarry, your tax collector, Linda Slota, the former treasurer, Mark Becker, the assessor, Bob Craver, the town clerk, and myself sits on that team. And you have a very good team there. They work very hard, and that's a testament to it. The FY 2016 draft proposed budget for the general fund. Again, this is the same document that I emailed to you on Thursday after I met with the Finance Committee. And that is on the agenda for discussion this evening. We have correspondence from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Committee for Public Counsel Services and correspondence from White and Williams LLP. Both of those letters have been forwarded to council. And I drafted an executive session memo with attachments. That was forwarded to you on Saturday also for your review, and I've attached another copy here for you this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Motion to accept the town administrator's report.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a few issues I'd like to ask the acting administrator. First of all, Mrs. Regis, I was just wondering if you could give us a brief overview of how the Police Fire Building Committee is going. I know it's probably been a couple of weeks or a month maybe since we heard an update on the fire station construction. I wasn't sure if there's any recent updates the board should be aware about.
Demolition is ongoing, and the chief is here too. Demolition is ongoing on the former police side of the building. We have our general contractor in place. We have just, at our last meeting, approved some change orders to the general contractor contract, which resulted in significant decrease in the amount of the contract. So that is good news. Chief, do you want to expand on some of those?
Most of the demolition is done. The asbestos has been removed on the police side. We're waiting for a few more things to come in for construction side to start. So we're hoping to see that within the next couple of days. We'll start doing some asbestos removal on the capital F space this week. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll see a little more progress and start framing things out and getting the shape and stuff and making some progress on that side.
Are you finding that that construction might pose a hardship for the department?
Doing a very good job. They've cut the holes through for the pass-throughs on the station side, so we're making some good progress. They're not interfering with our operation. The construction foreman's a pretty good guy. He works with us, lets us know what's going on, so we're doing a good job.
Thank you for the update, and I would like to make a motion on your recommendation to dedicate 3 of the 6 trees to the police, fire, and EMS. Although the location of those trees, is that on the other side? Is the side?
That's right here
Right
on the
here.
Main Street side.
Yeah.
There's 6 trees that they planted there, so it would be 3 of those trees.
That's great. So that's my
I'll
motion.
second that, but we need to finish the first one first.
We do.
Treasurer's report.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes. Second one, the motion's been made and seconded for the trees. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starsik?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item is old business, the town administrator's screening committee. Mr. Becker.
Yes, we do have a committee that's been appointed. The names of the people are myself, representing the Board of Selectmen, Sean Collins as the school committee appointment, Robert Craver is the Board of Assessors appointment, from the Finance Committee, Senator Fatman and Michael Finnemore, and then from the town moderator, 4 appointments, Nancy Zecco, Representative McKenna, Robert Miller, and David Dupont. There are a couple of questions. We are going to have the first meeting this Wednesday at 6:30 at the police station community room. One of the questions is, in order to prepare an ad for publication, we'd like to, in speaking with Mrs. Regis, we'd like to have the board determine what amount we would put in the ad. For instance, the current salary is $125,000, so it's been suggested that we put in the ad up to $125,000. So that's one point that we'll need to talk about. The consultant, do we use a consultant? We'll talk about that at the at the meeting on Wednesday. And I don't think would need one, but certainly want to talk through that. And then whether or not we need to do anything for posting, for getting monies for the posting has to be talked about. So I think, Mrs. Regis, in talking with the up to 125,000, that seemed to make sense.
Or, I agree, or up to an amount. Is it something that the board, the $125,000 was Mr. McAuliffe's salary when he left. Is the board willing to increase that or stay with that? But I just think that an up to gives you some leeway, depending on what you get for experience and all of that, so.
So I think if the selectmen feel 125 is a good number, then we would look to take a vote that way, or do you want to do up to 130? Question is, we don't really know what the market is like at this point.
Well, to that point, Mrs. Regis, you might know this. Do we know what some comparable towns would be paying administrators? I mean, Southbridge, I feel, is probably on our plane typically. If maybe you would know that figure.
Well, and Southbridge is currently in negotiations with, they just actually appointed, subject to coming to an agreement on a contract the other night. They appointed someone, so I don't know what that salary is. The former town manager, when he left, I believe was 135, I believe. Again, that's a town manager. It is a different form of government. The town manager has different authority than a town administrator does in that form of government. The town manager in that's a very strong charter, strong town manager, acts as the Board of Selectmen in many cases. So, but I will tell you that as far as an MMA advertisement or anything like that, including a number does attract more attention than not.
And is it, through the chair, is it safe to say, Mrs. Regis, that if we put a number in, it's going to be subject to negotiation once
Absolutely.
we find a person?
And appropriation.
Any other questions from the board? Do you want to move on?
Yeah, I think I'd like to make a recommendation or a motion to approve an amount up to $125,000 so that we can place the ad.
I'll second that. Motion's been made and seconded to place the ad for up to $125,000. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzyk?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
And the other question with regards to the screening committee is, and I'm not sure, maybe to get Mrs. Regis's opinion, we will have to spend money to post the ad, and whether we just post that within Massachusetts or post it in a national fashion, I guess I'd ask if you know, Pam, what the costs might be with that.
I don't, but I'm confident that this fiscal year's budget can support the advertisement,
Okay.
so we should be all set for the ad itself, yeah.
Have we ever posted in the MMA?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we always
Yes,
post in the MMA.
yes.
How expensive is that?
Depending on the ad size.
Right. And that's the publication itself, and then the online
Yeah.
version also, so.
If you can remember, not holding you to the number, what did we spend last time in advertising for John's position? No idea.
I don't recall. I don't. I can bring that with me. I will be attending the first meeting of the
Maybe
committee,
just bring it
so.
to their meeting so you guys have some sort of.
I will bring that, yes. And I will also bring, I don't think it was was it last time that they used an outside consultant or the time before? I'll look back and see when that was and what that cost was also.
And looking at the information from the last time, I don't believe a consultant was used.
All right, so
Yeah,
it was
the
probably
time
the time
before
before that, yeah. But I'll look at that also.
Courtney, we voted on that, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
New business, rescheduling the Board of Selectmen's meeting to Tuesday, June 23rd, 2015.
And the reason for that, of course, is because Monday is the continuation of the annual town meeting.
And I need to post some poll hearings and some
Right.
underground storage tank hearings, so.
I'm gone the whole week, so you guys have fun.
Do you want to approve the whole summer schedule?
Right, if we can review the entire schedule, as I said, I'd like to schedule the auditor to come in for the exit interview, and also to have our attorneys come in and provide a legal update to the board and myself.
Which
So,
meeting was that you're requesting? I'm sorry.
if you approve the schedule, then we will contact them and see what works for them, so.
I'll make a motion to accept the Board of Selectmen's meeting dates as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Clerk, can you call the roll?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Julda?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. Next item is Page Chiropractic Health Center, one-day liquor license for June 9th, 2015.
They did an event before, I think, right?
They do one every year
Yeah,
at the
there's
same
no
time.
issue with them typically,
This
so.
one, they are doing the scholarships, I guess, for the kids at that event.
I know that 88's is catering event and is part of this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Clerk, can you call the board?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Julda?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. Next item is Webster Lakes Memorial Beach Party, one-day liquor license request and entertainment license request, June 20th, 2015.
I'll make a motion to approve the one-day liquor license.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we've been going back and forth with Mr. Peter, I think, Mr. Peter's here, and Mr. Travis. We've been going back and forth regarding costs and things like that, and also insurance. We require a certain level of insurance for any event down at the beach or on any of town property, the Pocket Park, anything like that. We forwarded our insurance requirements to Mr. Pieter. They've been working with an insurance agent. Unfortunately, there are some coverages that they are unable to obtain. I have forwarded that information. On Friday, I forwarded that information to our insurance advisor, and I haven't heard back from him yet. I have asked him to let us know if the proposed coverage is acceptable to indemnify the town of Webster. Again, there is alcohol that is going to be served at this event. My concern is if our insurance advisor comes back and says that these coverages are not acceptable, I would not recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they approve the licenses, unfortunately. I just don't see where I would feel comfortable at all recommending to the board that this event, as wonderful as this is, be able to happen without indemnifying the town of Webster sufficiently.
Great. How far are we off of the numbers?
The problem we're having right now is that the liability coverage that you are requiring is not available in the state of Massachusetts at any cost, period. But you require a $1 million liability for alcohol. We're willing to go, we're purchasing $2 million worth of liability for alcohol. The problem that we're having is, which one is it, Jason?
The general aggregate. The limit is $2 million for any single event that an underwriter will write for an event in this town. We can't, the WLA cannot physically purchase a $3 million policy. It does not exist.
It doesn't exist in Massachusetts.
I have a letter, an email from our insurance agent, Star Insurance, explaining that.
Pam, did we have, didn't we have an event down there just recently? Did they have alcohol?
No. No.
The
Oh,
relay
she
for
didn't
life.
have alcohol then?
No, the only other event that I'm aware of is the boat race, the boat races, and they had sufficient coverage.
Then where did they get the coverage? You don't
They
have
bought it in Canada, because they're from Canada.
It's the issue is the alcohol being served. The Lake Association does not hold a workers' comp insurance policy, therefore they cannot,
We don't have any employees, so we don't
Correct.
need workman's comp.
so they're unable to cover their volunteers that are going to be down there that day. So if anyone were to get hurt, that
Falls
would,
on us.
correct. And also, let's see. And this is from the insurance agent they're dealing with. He writes, "We have reviewed to maximum attendance in the tent as well as the police presence. The underwriters hold firm in not offering participant accident insurance. That's another requirement. There are too many gray areas with respect to the event, the most prominent one being the consumption of alcohol by a participant prior to the event." Again, this is a wonderful thing. It's something that, you know, I would love to see happen. I just have to make sure that the town is indemnified properly.
So through the chair, if I could, aside from the boat races, is this the only other event that would essentially happen on town property where alcohol is served? Because I feel like we've approved so many festivals and great things, but it seems all those haven't reached this threshold then. Am I correct in assuming that?
Because, what other, has there been any others, Courtney, or?
3 or 4 years ago, we did hold a harvest festival, and it wasn't the town of Webster that served the alcohol, it was actually, like the Booster Club that served the alcohol. And after that year, we didn't do the alcohol here at the town hall in the auditorium because of the liability.
They didn't have the liability.
Yeah. So that's the only other event that.
So it wasn't on town property?
It was here at the town hall, in the Harvest Festival.
The very first one.
The
when we
very
had that
first
freak
one.
snowstorm, right?
Yes, that was in the corner.
I just think it's interesting that our advisor's seeking us to get an insurance that apparently doesn't exist. It's kind of an interesting,
That is the difficulty. We
That's the
would be
problem.
more than willing to purchase it. We maxed out what we can buy for a policy, but we cannot physically purchase something that is not available to us to purchase.
So then in my understanding, the complication comes because you're a nonprofit where you don't have employees without the workman's comp policy, that's where there's a disconnect? Am
The
I
workman's
correct in
comp
understanding
is a
that?
very small policy, it's a rider. I mean, we can get workman's comp. It's like $700 to do it. But what's the point when you have no employees? You know, workman's comp covers employees. Our people are volunteers that are gonna be working the event, and
Right.
they're not being paid.
But it covers
They're not
them.
being paid.
Workers, you said workers. So
Well,
that's-
not workers, let's say, you know, most of the workers are people from the town, it's your people. The police department's gonna be there working, they're being paid, but you guys are paying them.
Who are covered, and they are covered under our policy.
Yeah.
But in lieu of the workers' comp policy or the participant accident policy, which covers
Now, just a
the
second,
volunteers.
the participant part of it on the application is for people that are gonna run a fishing tournament. Those are the participants. We're not running a fisherman tournament, we're having a concert. People are gonna sit down and listen to music. They're not gonna be out fishing. So why would you need that coverage? I mean, it's ridiculous in a way.
How long has this sort of policy been in place that we would have to have these minimums?
Oh, years.
Years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the application, it states the policy was last revised in 2008.
And I'm not saying that our insurance advisor will not approve the coverages that they've put forward, but if he does not, the board can do what they want, but.
If he does not, we're out $7,000 that we've put up. The Webster Lake Association has got $7,000 out there right now that we cannot get refunded. This thing really kind of has to go on. You guys are in partners with us. This is a partnership.
When did we find out about these minimums?
These minimums, we found out just recently.
Found out about the minimums May 21st from the town, and with 2 additional requirements on June 1st from the town with the proposal was originally submitted to the town in early January.
Right, and then when
First station,
right,
she's here.
became involved, Mr. Pieta and I started going back and forth via email and making sure he had all the permits he required. I met with the department heads to make sure public safety was all on board, any of the departments, that this is the way we're going to be doing things now going forward. To make sure that all of these events, all of the department has to have what they need, and that the town has what we need in order to indemnify us properly. So.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. It seems the question is not the limits as much as the inability to cover volunteers. That's
Correct.
in numbered letter B in the bottom. They do not want to have volunteers covered. So no matter what the limit is, the issue is if someone fell on the town property, got hurt. That seems to be an issue that maybe could be worked out. You know, I would certainly be in favor of, you know, having our insurance advisor work with Mr. Stohai and see if they can come up with something, because I know time is short. And if they can come up with something that's acceptable to the town's insurance advisor, I would have no problem going forward.
I agree.
Is it a question of, I know insurance agents sell different insurance, so they don't just only sell like one Travelers or...
Yeah, no, they put it out to everybody, like, you know, they threw it into a pool, and nobody's willing to meet those demands that you guys are asking for.
I mean, is that a red flag?
Well, it is. I mean, the most they will cover is $2 million, which we're willing to buy. But you guys are requiring $3 million, and nobody will sell $3 million.
Yeah, and I think on that point, I have no problem recommending a $2 million alcohol limit and aggregate.
Yep.
So the maximum coverage is $2 million.
That's what we're willing to purchase.
And I have no problem doing that, but I think there might be another hurdle with regards to covering volunteers that would have to be dealt with.
Well, you know, the way to cover them is with a workman's comp. We don't have a problem buying that policy, even though they're not employees. You know, I mean, it's for $700 more. I'd rather spend $700 now than lose $7,000 that we can't get back. Plus, we're advertising this all over the place now, so it's kind of late to pull the plug.
Now, this might be a stupid question, and I've had a couple of them, but I mean, what if you paid the volunteers so now they're legally employees? Even if you give them something, does that change the way that they're insured? Maybe you kind of threw a little loophole. I don't know. Maybe you could probably answer better than me.
You don't want to get involved with payroll taxes and things like that,
Yeah.
I mean, the volunteers that we have there are people that are going to be sitting at a table doing, doing requests for.
Yeah, I want to see it go on. I'm trying to think of anything I can.
I guess my concern would be if the volunteers were to, if someone were to slip, trip, and fall or something like that, would they then go after you if you don't have the insurance and they've been drinking, or would they come after the town?
The deeper pockets.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but again, the liquor liability policy is going to cover.
It's going to cover it.
Alcohol. It's if someone's volunteering, let's say not drinking, and gets hurt. So you may be able to work it out. Anderson.
Yes. To the chair, I do know that with the hydroplane boat races, all of the people that were volunteering, working in the pit area, we did have them sign liability release forms and
a
so
waiver.
I don't know if that's something that our insurance advisor might recommend.
And we do have those in other cases that we do have waivers. And again, I'm not the expert in this. Mr. Becker would know more than I, but I have to rely on the experts, and that be our insurance advisor. And I want him to tell me that the town is properly indemnified.
So well, we've done this before. Why don't we do this? Why don't we continue with our vote and make it subject to, amend your motion to make it subject to the insurance agent coming back and saying what they have, their limits are.
And I will contact our insurance advisor and ask them to, if it's okay, to contact Mr. Stohai directly and try and work this out, because this is something that we all want to see happen.
We want to see it happen.
Absolutely, so.
You know, and I would actually do it in the form of a motion to make a motion to decrease our limit to the $2 million aggregate. I think a $2 million aggregate, we found out market conditions, you don't have anything over that. The $2 million aggregate is typically what is needed out there, instead of the $3 million aggregate.
Right.
What they're trying to do is stack the $1 million on top of the $2 million, and that's not market out there.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we, I hear your motion. Why don't we see if we can have, is it Brian? See if we can have Brian come in and explain it to us, and let's have a one-on-one or a board conversation in regards to changing the minimums.
Well, that would be for the future, Mr. Chairman, because
Yes.
this is time sensitive
No,
now.
I understand that.
Right.
We gotta do it by the 20th, but
Right.
why don't we schedule him to come in
Okay.
at our next meeting?
We can do that.
But we do have a motion. You want to amend your motion, subject to?
Did I make a motion? No, you were kind of going on.
I
and-
seconded it. No, did you make the motion?
When
Who
I-
made the motion?
Yeah, we've made too many now.
I made the initial motion
Yeah.
to approve the one-day liquor license for the memorial.
Would you
for
like
the
to
beach.
amend it?
Absolutely.
Subject to?
Subject to coverage and decreasing our aggregate to 2 million
To the suggestion
of
of?
Selectmen Becker.
All right,
Okay.
I will take that.
And
Any
then-
other discussion?
And if I could, just as part of the motion, to make sure that the insurance advisor for the town of Webster speaks with Mr. Stohai, because it sounds as though that $700 is going to be well worth spent.
Well, yeah, I mean.
If that's
you know,
what it takes to get this
that's not-
done.
At this point, no, it
carries you for a
doesn't
year.
make it, I mean, we'll pick up the workman's comp also, even though, you know, we don't have any employees, but if somebody, like you said, somebody could fall the trip or do something. But I don't think workman's comp would actually cover it anyhow, because they're not employees.
Well,
I mean, but
well,
we'll buy
they-
the policy if that's what it takes. I
But
mean,
this is only, you're only looking for coverage for this one day.
that one day,
Okay.
yeah,
and it's probably going to be a minimum premium of $700.
yeah.
Okay.
You know?
Any other discussion? Jason? anything? Call the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
One more thing, Doug.
Yep.
I also need the permit for the entertainment.
So, I'm sorry, the what?
I need the permit for the entertainment.
No, I think it's in here, yeah.
That's probably
We'll
in-
be signing them. Right.
Well, we can make a motion and sign it
Yeah,
now,
I'll make
so
a
he
motion
can.
to approve the entertainment license.
Second.
as well.
Whose name?
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the entertainment license once I find it in here.
I didn't print out the licenses because I didn't know whose name the licenses are gonna be
Okay.
in.
Oh,
So we
So-
could just sign them
Subject to-
tomorrow or
That's-
authorize you,
Yep.
and they could pick them up in your office tomorrow if that's
Yep,
acceptable.
or if you're gonna be here to vote on Monday, you can just sign it on Monday too.
so you'll just have to
Motion's been
let
made
her
and
know
seconded.
whose name these licenses are gonna be put in.
Yeah, she's not sure exactly whose name to put on the license.
It probably should be the Webster Lake Association and the town of Webster, and the town of Webster, both of them.
I would.
No, not on the liquor license.
No.
But on the entertainment
I don't think
license.
Town of Webster can be-
I don't think,
Right.
yeah, I don't think.
On
that
the
town-
entertainment license, probably both. It doesn't matter, you can just do Webster Lake
Do
Association,
you have to
that'd
do
be
an
fine.
individual, Courtney?
I do them both individual, they're not together in one
No,
license.
no, no, I mean, the Webster Lake Association, is that fine? You don't need an individual's name?
I don't need an individual.
Okay, so let's do the Webster Lake
Webster Lake
Association.
Association. All right.
Do we need a vote just to, oh, okay, sorry.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
Very good.
Anything else?
That's it, I'm going to dinner.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is St. Louis Fall Festival one-day liquor license request for September 25th, 2015.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Is this just one day?
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
2 days, it looks
No, I
like.
thought it was two, it says one day in here.
It says
2
Friday
days-
and Saturday.
No, 2 days this year, Friday, September 25th, 6 to 10.
Does a one-day cover 2 days?
Yes, because they're considered by the ABCC one-day
One.
liquor
Okay, thank you.
licenses.
Thank you.
So they're two one-day.
You can get up to 20 a
Right.
year.
20 days?
20, yeah.
A one-day liquor license, you can give them 20 days.
That's almost
20,
seasonal.
considered
Yeah.
21-day liquor licenses.
Go on, you call the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. Daily communication and emails with acting town administrator. And I had a conversation with Pam in regards to this. One of the things that we were lacking in the past is communication. And what I asked the acting town administrator to do is to basically just send us a daily update of stuff that happens. And through my communication with her, I might have went a little bit too far, because as some of us have seen, the emails were quite lengthy. So I guess what I'm asking for is just if something comes up, just let us know via email, something that we need to know about immediately. That's all I'm asking for, just to keep us in the loop, because you know how fast all of a sudden, you know, someone's gonna call us if, and we don't know about it. I would prefer to.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And as I said in our email correspondence that Sunday when you emailed me, I believe and I hope that the board knows that in the past when I have been in an acting town administrator role, I do that, and I will continue to do that. I have served as an elected official, and I know what it's like to be in the grocery store and be asked a question and not know what they're talking about. I won't do that to you. I would not do that. I will let you know. But there are some days when it's just monotonous, you know, all day, just paperwork, pushing paper. I don't think you want to know about that.
There is no way that your job is monotonous. All right, thank you on that. Authorize the acting town administrator to sign the Rawson Road project loan documents.
Paperwork, Mr. Chairman. This is just, they need to, the DEP is very strict about this, and so it needs to be changed to acting town administrator rather than town administrator.
Any questions from the board?
Make motion approved.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion?
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Jolda?
Yes.
Chairman Board?
Yes. FY 2016 budget.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, as I said, I emailed this to you on Thursday after I met with the Finance Committee Thursday evening. This is a draft proposed budget, and I have presented it in a way which I hope is acceptable to the board. I have presented an override scenario and a non-override scenario, and a column with the difference in the two, so that anyone looking at this document can see where that additional, on the town side, $300,000 of the proposed $1 million in additional levy capacity for FY16 will be spent.
So you're saying the first year would be 70 them, 30 us, and then inverted, right? I just want to make sure we're on the
What's
same
been
thing.
discussed is that in the first year, FY16, it's an additional $300,000 for the town and $700,000 for the school. In FY17, that would be an additional $600,000 for the town and $400,000 for the school.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to make sure we're all
No,
on the same page.
So on the revenue analysis, you can see the additional $1 million in the levy capacity. If the $2 million override is approved, this means that we will have excess levy capacity in the FY16, on the FY16 recap sheet of $1 million. We have committed to the town that if the $2 million override is approved, that we will not be taxing to the max in fiscal 16. We'll hold back that additional $1 million until fiscal 17. Just going through it rather quickly, you will see in different departments under many of them are non-union department heads. You will see small amounts. This is a up to 3% cost of living adjustment that I've included between a non-override scenario versus an override scenario. Your non-union employees, management employees, department heads have not received a cost of living increase since fiscal 13. So fiscal 16 would be the third year. I employed the same type of thought process that Mr. McAuliffe did when he last gave a up to 5%, that being 1% for each year that you have been in the position. So for someone like myself, say, who has been in my position for 15 years, I would receive the 3%. For someone who has only been in their position for a year, they'll receive 1%. Some of the highlights, I met with the police chief and the deputy police chief I believe it was last Wednesday morning, and provided my scenarios, override versus non-override, and asked for their opinion with regard to those scenarios. I don't run their departments, they do. They know what they need and what they want. I've explained to them what I needed from them in an override versus a non-override scenario. And it was very interesting to watch the chief and deputy chief. They had a very animated discussion, and it was a very healthy discussion. So in the non-override versus the override, what's been decided is that the deputy police chief has stated that he is thinking about retiring at the end of this calendar year. In a non-override scenario, that position would not be replaced. It would not be filled. The deputy police chief would remain vacant for the rest of fiscal year 16 in a non-override scenario. So the funding in there only funds that position for 6 months. That's also the holiday pay difference you'll see there. That's also the deputy chief. I also had in here, there was also 2 patrolmen who have stated that they may be retiring also. I had not replacing one, but the police chief was adamant he needs his people on the street. So we are proposing to replace both of those positions if in fact they do retire. Building maintenance, you will see, is the other large difference. This building across the street is a beautiful building. Our warranty will be expiring in September on a lot of the controls over there. And the police department, the deputy chief actually solicited several service agreements, which cost a lot of money. The largest one being the HVAC system that's over there. This would not fund that maintenance contract, and we would have to pay on an as-you-go basis. And the other item that I had, the police cruisers we fund on an operating basis. It's a rotating lease program. I am fully in support of that. We go two new cruisers, then one, then two, then one. This year, fiscal 16, it was proposed 2 new cruisers. I had funded none and just continued with the leases we had. Again, the chief requested that I add one back in, and he would forego the other. Under the SWEC, our regional dispatch center, we have a dispatcher who has notified us that he is thinking about retiring again at the end of the calendar year. This budget proposes not to fill that position. Let's see what else we have. There were some differences in the fire department budget. In the new contract that was settled, we are now required to provide a clothing allowance, and that was estimated to cost approximately $15,000. The Department of Public Works, I decreased some of their line items. Again, I also met with Mr. Pizzetti on Wednesday morning regarding this, And the major difference between the override versus non-override scenario is an additional body in the highway department. If the override passes, we will be proposing to add another employee to the highway department. I also met with Jean Travis, the senior center director, on Wednesday morning. Our contract with NOAA requires the senior center to be open 40 hours a week. There is no provision for not adhering to that, so there are no penalties with regard to that. And unfortunately, in a non-override scenario, there is not sufficient funding to do that, to open that center 40 hours per week.
But, just on that line item, we agreed to them buying the building that we would find some way, somehow, to having that for 40 hours a week.
Correct, and that is why I'm having this conversation with the board. Right. This would require a layoff of 2 individuals. So,
Part-time individuals?
No, I'm talking in order to fund that senior center for 40 hours a week. The non-override scenario includes the senior center being open the same hours they are now and providing the same services. If the board wishes for me to fund that to 40 hours a week, that would require me to lay off 2 positions within the town, current positions.
In a non-override.
Correct. In order to open the senior center, which is now only open 27 hours a week, to open that senior center 40 hours per week.
There's no repercussions from them at all?
There is not. There is no. So that was my determination, Mr. Chairman. No, but again, that's why I'm bringing this to the board. If the board wishes for us to open that senior center for 40 hours a week, that will require me to cut 2 positions.
We'll find out soon.
Those are the biggest differences. The only other difference is this year was the first year that we provided funding for our other post-employment benefits, our OPEB, of $10,000. That is also taken out for next year in a non-override scenario.
Through the chair, where do we stand as far as a no override position and an override position as far as the custodial department with town hall and the police department? I know that with Mr. Chauvin's election, depending on if that ends up becoming a full-time thing with the next election cycle, future things down the road, I mean, that is FY16 we'll be talking about. Do we have any contingencies on that?
Okay, so just to be clear, that both the override and the non-override scenario for the treasurer's position, both budgets are the same, $200 a week stipend.
Okay, but more specifically, I'm looking for the custodial component of that.
Maintains the staff we have.
Okay.
That's the way I approached this budget. I committed 4% to the school and to maintain all the staff that we had. I didn't want a layoff scenario. Again, that's me, and that's the way I approached this budget. Mr. McAuliffe had his scenario. This is mine. Mm-hmm. I have had conversation with the school department. They're aware of the 4%. And again, as I said, the deputy chief is seeking to retire at the end of the calendar year. That position would not be funded. There's another retirement, that position would not be funded, but they're not layoffs.
Good.
Those were my priorities.
Any other questions from the board?
Have you had any conversations with the school that they're doing the same thing on their side?
They are.
Any other new business?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, so I am going to finalize this proposed budget tomorrow. If the board doesn't have any strong feelings about my changing the proposed budget.
The only concern that I had was the agreement that we have with Noah. You know, to be quite frank, we spent so much time and energy and so much money over the last few years to get that facility up and running. And we all fought for it for many years. And, you know, one way, shape, or form, we have to go back on what we agreed upon. I mean, that kind of comes down black and blue line on us. We just look, you know, we agreed to having 40 hours there. Not, you know, I would never want to see someone get laid off. That's my only concern.
Well, I agree, Mr. Chairman, and that was, when I spoke with Mrs. Travis, again, my priority was to maintain our staff. So, you know, the budgets are virtually, most of them are level funded. We do with what we have, and I understand that senior center is a beautiful building. We don't even know what it's going to cost us actually, utility-wise, operating-wise. We've made some assumptions here in this budget, but again, as we did across the street, we're not going to know until a year shakes out, and then we'll see what the actual operating utility costs are for that space. But as far as the personnel piece of it, that personnel piece, to make the senior center director full-time, the custodial staff full-time, and the one full-time clerk, is a little over $75,000.
Do you want a motion from us or anything, or you just want to?
If the board wishes me to change something and change the scenario, then yes, I would appreciate knowing what your priorities are. If not, then I will finalize the budget as proposed.
Well, I don't want to see anyone get laid off, but I also want to see our commitments. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as Mrs. Regis has set it forth. I agree with you, Chairman Bork, that, you know, commitments are important in today's day and age. However, unforeseen fiscal events, you know, I think we have an obligation to our employees that is paramount. So with that said, that's my motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Courtney, pull the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Julda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.
And again, just to be clear, in an override scenario, that facility will be open 40 hours a week.
Informational mail. Other business unknown at time of posting. So with that said, we will, seeing that there is none, we will go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation, negotiation with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Reasons for convening an executive session match general law 30A, section 21. To conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And we will or will not come back into regular session.
There's no need to, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We will not come back into regular session. Courtney, pull the board.
Selectman Becker?
Yes.
Selectman Starzak?
Yes.
Selectman Julda?
Yes.
Chairman Bork?
Yes.